The Tories have a lot of obsessions. Migration, climate change, or rather it not happening, putting Margaret Thatcher's face on t-shirts, kids identifying as cats. But at this Tory conference, a new threat has emerged. Have a listen to Environment Secretary Therese Coffey.
Our farmers produce the best food in the world to the highest animal welfare standards. But there are some green zealots who think our farmers should stop rearing livestock and instead we should eat fake meat. Conference, regardless of what the zealots say, and by the way, I'm being taken to court in relation to this right now, I'm absolutely not going to tell anyone that they should not eat meat. Fake meat might be okay for astronauts, but when people think of a meat feast, I want them to be thinking about our great Welsh lamb, our Aberdeen Angus beef, our saddleback pork, not some pizza topping.
It's extraordinary to see a serving environment minister use her time at conference to discuss vegetarianism as though it were a potential national policy or threat to national security. Of course, the real purpose of that bit of her speech was to get in the term eco-zealots, just get it in there, signalling allegiance to Tory climate skeptics or indeed deniers. That kind of posturing didn't work out for one minister, though. The new Net Zero Secretary, Claire Coutinho, also brought up meat in her conference speech. Here's Sophie Ridge asking her about it.
I just want to read a bit of your speech to you, because there was one section of it that really struck me. You said, it's no wonder Labour seems so relaxed about taxing meat. So Keir Starmer doesn't eat it, and Ed Miliband is clearly scarred by his encounter with a bacon sandwich. You didn't write that, did you?
I did actually write that. I think, it's good to have a light moment in your speech as well. But the point is actually...
They're not proposing a meat tax.
The point is actually very serious. So some of the things that Labour are proposing are incredibly hard for working families. So whether you have things like...
meat tax? That's what you're saying here.
Well, so the point is... They are proposing things which are pushing families too hard. So you've got things like the ULEZ tax expansion, which does cost families £12.50 a day.
It's not meat tax, though, is it?
But that is very difficult. And they've got things like proposing that you would decarbonise the electricity grid by 2030, again, which would result in very difficult choices for families. And their plans to push up inflation by borrowing £28 billion. So the point that I was making is quite serious. Yes, that was a light-hearted moment in the speech, but the point is actually deadly serious, that if you push people too far in this country, you will lose the cause of climate change, something that I'm passionate about because I think it's really important that we get there.
But genuinely, there isn't a meat tax.
Well, actually, if you try and push too hard, what you do end up with is people, and by the way, this has been part of the debate, talking about discouraging people from eating meat. Now, as someone who's worked in government for some time, I can tell you when people tell you that they want to discourage people from eating meat, what they mean
Where did Keir Starmer say that?
So when they talk about moving at the pace that they're moving, what they're implying is that difficult choices will have to be made. And we know from having carefully safeguarded this debate that when people talk about trying to do things faster and quicker, they do talk about things like discouraging people from eating meat. Their dietary requirements.
Keir Starmer's talked about people eating less meat, has he?
Well, I mean, Keir Starmer doesn't ever tell people exactly what he thinks, which is part of the problem. What we have tried to do is set out a really clear agenda on net zero so people know where we stand, which is making sure that we can get to these ambitious targets, but also protecting families.
That was probably the most bizarre interview of a very bizarre several days with the Tories. And I mean, actually, let's just really get to the meat here. The meat of the story, or the meat of what she was saying, the point which is a lie, a complete falsehood, is just a bit of light relief. I was just trying to lighten up the speech. Just a few conspiracy theories here, a few lies there. And I think one of the reasons why Sophie Ridge is just so taken back there is that they're two women of a similar age. They could be friends in different social circles, right? They're, similar-ish university backgrounds, I presume, similar interests, politics, media, journalism, similar worlds. And I think Sophie Ridge is kind of like, you sound insane. In another world, I'd probably be friends with you and we really get on. You sound crazy. This is a crazy thing to be talking about. That said, who remembers Emma Barnett? She went on the attack against Labour in the last general election, saying they would nationalise sausages. One thing I don't quite understand is why the same people attacking Coutinho on this, quite rightly, about made-up mad conspiracy theories about meat being taxed or banned, that was said by somebody at the BBC who then after the 2019 election got a promotion. She presented Women's Hour as a result of that stunning journalism. Farming Minister Mark Spencer has backed Coutinho. He said this: I think there's been a lot of discussion, particularly on the left of politics, about a meat tax. Lefties love regulation and they love to regulate. They love to put in extra rules, and I rub up against that sort of stuff, I suppose. I believe in my constituents and their ability to make informed decisions and logical decisions, and I don't like to over-regulate. I'd rather over-educate. If only. That is the Minister for Farming. His view on politics is basically, yeah, I reckon they do that. Yeah, I reckon they do that. Fuck it. Attack them for it. Say they've done it. Doesn't matter anyway. What's the truth? Helena, we've talked about some ridiculous stories today, frankly. What did you make of that interview with Claire Coutinho, who's seen really as a up-and-coming technocrat on the Conservative front bench?
Well, yeah, literally, they were talking about her previously in response to Rishi Sunak's kind of delay on net zero, saying, well, look at our new net zero minister, Claire Coutinho. She's a rising star of the party. I think she's going to do great work in her, what's probably her first real, high-profile public appearance. She's been made to look like not just a novice, but also an idiot by Sophie Ridge. And to be honest, I'm gonna pour one out for Sophie Ridge. I've been absolutely crying and calling out for a Paxman type figure in the media to take these very obvious lies about a meat tax. So to clarify, this idea of a meat tax that Rishi Sunak was talking about at his net zero announcement, there was one line in the Climate Change Committee in Parliament that said, in a discussion about meat consumption, said there needed to be demand side policy to try and move people away, to try and decrease meat consumption, right? Demand side policy. That's it. One line in a big document, a big discussion. That was the only thing that they used as evidence of the idea that there was ever going to be a meat tax. And it wasn't even Keir Starmer who said that. That was just a general note from the Climate Change Committee. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. She is supposed to be this up-and-coming new minister, and she's looked awful. And we just need more kind of Paxman figures from the Conservative against when interviewing any member of either party, both Labour and Conservative, have essentially just told so many lies, so many falsehoods, so many mistruths, so many misdirections, or indeed, as we've seen from Rishi Sunak over all of the interviews he's done in the last week, not even answering the question. Because both sides of each party will do this, whether it be because Labour's have broken pledges or Tories have made up policies on the fly. And journalists just, for a very, very long time, because they're pally, the journalists are pally, they all want to have access. So they don't want to piss off the MPs too much, lest they lose that access, not be the preferential interview. We've already seen the Tories are happy to just ensure that they only get interviews from GB News and The Telegraph. But we do need more kind of Paxman type interview. Just like, no, stop it. Answer the question, yes or no. Did you lie? Did you not? That Coutinho moment was a very much a did you threaten to overrule him, Michael Howard moment, if ever I've seen one.